Hi, welcome to Unit 5, Intro to Chemical Reactions, Part 1. So in this unit, we're going to learn about chemical reactions. So let's start off by sort of grounding ourselves in what chemical reactions are. And chemical reactions are all around us. I mean, when you cook or you bake, that's a chemical reaction. Watching fireworks, that's a chemical reaction. Rusting of a building or any type of metal is a chemical reaction. And then also, so many bodily functions rely on chemical reactions. So what is a chemical reaction? A chemical reaction essentially is a process where chemicals known as reactants are mixed together and form different chemicals called products. So you'll start off with a reactant and it undergoes some change, resulting in products. And a good example of that is when you cook or you bake. So you can sort of think of your reactants as the ingredients, sort of like the ingredients of a cake. You combine those together, add a little heat, and bam, your product or the food that you make would be the cake. And you can see here that what you start off with, your ingredients, is not exactly the same thing as the cake that you make. So it's important to note that for a chemical reaction, a change must occur. Now, why I'm emphasizing this? That's because we also experience things called physical changes. So a physical change is you change the substance, but essentially the substance will stay the same. It's the same exact substance. And you can change it by changing its phase. Like this example here, we have liquid water going into solid water or ice. It's still water. We didn't change anything. We just changed the phase that the water was in from liquid to solid. Another example of a physical change is if you break something apart into smaller pieces. That would be a physical change. Even though the pieces are smaller, the substance is still the same. On the other hand, for a chemical change, the substance itself must change. And an example of that would be if you take water, which can be broken apart into H2 and O2. And so you notice that you started off with water, and then in the end, you have hydrogen gas and oxygen gas, and they're not the same exact thing as water. So there's some signs that we look for as scientists to see when a chemical reaction is actually taking place. One example would be light being released. So here's an example of burning magnesium. And this is actually one of the metals that are used in making fireworks. Temperature changes. So you see like a flame or something gets really, really cool, then that's a sign that chemical reactions take place. If you see gas or bubbles being formed. This one here is called a precipitate. That's when when a solid comes out of the solution, out of the liquid. And then also the final one is a color change. So when you notice a color change, that is a sign that a chemical reaction is taking place. All right, let's try our first CFU. What you're going to do for the CFU is you're going to circle all of the chemical changes. So here are these images and a description: breaking a window, baking a cake, slicing bread, crushing a can, etc. So for all of these, you're going to take a look at them and then circle the ones that's the chemical change. If it's not a chemical change, then do not circle it. Pause the video now. When you press play again, the answer will be revealed. Great, so here are the answers. These are all of the chemical changes: baking a cake, frying an egg, using batteries, exploding fireworks, burning wood fire, or rusting chains. Those are all chemical changes because what you start off with is not what you end up with in the end. On the other hand, breaking a window, for example, it's still glass. It's still, even though you broke it into smaller pieces, it's still glass, so there was no chemical change, for example. The rest of these would be all physical changes. All right, that's it for part 1. We're going to move on now to part 2.